I, Andrew Withers, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
This will be a very special presentation. I'm pissed. The New York Times decided to publish this article on returning combat vets. Some moron who was dishonorably discharged from the Army shoots 3 people, and because he's a racist asshole, all veterans must be racist assholes and come home and join the KKK. Of course, this guy wasn't a veteran. He was dishonorably discharged for being a fucking racist, and he never saw combat. If stupid people were a race, yeah, I'd be a racist. I hate stupid people, like this New York Times tack hammer. How does someone who obviously should be writing with crayons and construction paper get time in a national newspaper? Here's what Oliver North had to say about it on Fox News.
A typical New York Times unconscionable strike back at those who've served in our military. It's all part of that same Obama-Kerry narrative about the Vietnam War, those of us who fought in it, and, quite frankly, those who protect our country today. That's what all of this is. Got to remember, John Kerry was the one who said that we were all pot-headed marauders, that we raped, pillaged, burned in Vietnam. It was a lie then. It's a lie today. It's being furthered by another left-wing academic and, of course, published in one of the big media outlets for the far left. Here's some facts that she didn't get down right. 8.7 million Americans served in the United States military during the war. More than 2.6 million of us served honorably in Vietnam on the battlefield. Okay, 58,000 plus were killed in action, 303,000 or more were wounded in action, 2,300 still missing in action, 760 known POWs, of which 114 died and others are still in the missing. It's unconscionable that the New York Times would publish this kind of a column. I'll ask this question, where is the outrage from the Secretary of Veterans Affairs? Where is the outrage from the Department of Defense, the Secretary of Defense? Why hasn't he demanded a retraction? How about the Commander-in-Chief, who ought to be out standing up for the troops? Instead, it was his Department of Homeland Security that published an unconscionable hit piece, published out there to warn everybody about those of us who'd served in combat.
It would appear they hate the military, yet love to exercise the First Amendment to trash it every chance they get. Freedom of the press has to be ensured somehow, and they sure as hell didn't do it.
No. You know, and it's broadly across the board with the media. Think about what they've done to the soldiers, sailors, airmen, guardsmen, and Marines that I've covered now for 13 years, 57 embeds. They made Abu Ghraib look like it was a regular thing, and of course beat it like a rented mule for the better part of 4 years. Newsweek's totally false story about a Quran being flushed down a toilet. Senator Dick Durbin, who likened those of us who served in this war to those who served Hitler, Pol Pot, and Stalin. Christus, a New York Times correspondent, described those who served as, quote, nothing but poor people from Mississippi, Texas, and Alabama who couldn't get a decent job, so they joined the military. I got news from Mr. Hedges and the rest of the people at the New York Times. Dead wrong. Those who serve in our military today, Steve, are the best and bravest of their generation. They are just like their parents who were part of that greatest generation who went off and did their duty, in the words of Tom Brokaw, and they never got the thanks that they deserve. What happened to our Vietnam vets should never have happened. It shouldn't be happening now. We had to get down on our knees over Easter week and thank God that we had people willing to serve our country in a time of great divisiveness and yet stood up and did their duty.
What I have to say to this little turd who wrote this article, if you have a problem with the military, how about you take that rifle from that 19-year-old kid? Maybe you could do a better job. Or perhaps you could just give up your freedom of speech and freedom of the press so no one would have to fight for it and no one would have to listen to your bullshit.
Well, and it's, again, part of that same narrative. When we had that terrible event here at the Navy Yard, literally just a few hundred yards from where I'm sitting here in Washington, D.C., what was the headline? Navy vet kills 12. Right. The fact that this guy went out and killed people had nothing to do with the fact that he'd been in the Navy. Same thing with Fort Hood just a few weeks ago. That guy never saw combat. He doesn't have post-traumatic stress from being in the Army. The reality of it is the United States military today has extraordinary skill sets. On top of that, there's great screening to prevent those kinds of people from coming in the military. Yeah. And the one that she writes about in this column, who's accused of killing people, the fact is he was dismissed from the Army because he had those kinds of activities in his background.
Yeah, but stories like that don't sell newspapers and don't sell an agenda. I hope every veterans group in the country sues their ass for defamation.
And that's all I have to say about that.
I, Andrew Withers, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
Thanks for listening to the Second Amendment for Dummies. You can catch the show every Thursday. Have a good day.